Hey guys, welcome back to Mediocre Hobbies. In today's video, I'll be doing two things. One, I'll be painting up a Blood Angel to the highest ability possible, but I've converted it to match up with the new Primaris Marines coming out for 11th edition box set. So there's a Mark 7 Space Marine helmet. It looks pretty mint, and I want to try and paint it up as close to the one they've painted up as I'm physically possible. So that should be a little bit of fun. And two, I want people to understand the importance of and significance of the world of Armageddon. Now, I know a lot of veteran people out there watching this video will know all about Armageddon. You'll know all the kind of ins and outs of it, but I'm sure there's a lot of people out there who are wondering why Armageddon is so important as a single world, why everyone in this, like kind of the space is going crazy about it right now. Games Workshop aren't doing a great job at explaining what it is or why it's the setting. So hopefully I can tackle that in today's video and fill you guys' heads with all the information that I know about Armageddon, including something super, super important that not a lot of people know, and that is that it's not called Armageddon. That's actually not its true name or not its original name. And what its original name is makes it very, very important as to why it's being fought over. Okay, so without further ado, let's dive in and get this Blood Angel painted. So first off, I have this awesome new kind of Primaris Marine. It is just a conversion to try and match the one that Games Workshop have shown off. That's coming with the new Armageddon box set. So it is a Primaris, it's actually an Assault Intercessor body, as you can see by those extra pieces of hip armor, a Mark 7 helmet, and then I did some conversion work with his right arm in order to position that bolter correctly and make it look kind of proper. Like I said in the beginning and in the intro of this video, Armageddon seems to be a fairly pivotal place in the setting for 11th edition of Warhammer 40,000 coming up. And Games Workshop just simply released kind of information and videos and stuff showing little snippets of the actual war zone itself, but not explaining what Armageddon is. And for a lot of people out there, they won't understand the significance of Armageddon or why it's fought over so much. So I'm going to kind of talk basically through the first three wars of the Armageddon. And then we will talk obviously going into the 11th edition with, I believe they're calling it the fourth war for Armageddon. I'm not sure. But then there's also a very important and pivotal piece of information which a lot of people seem to ignore. And it's kind of the reason that this setting is so important and why the orcs attack it so frequently and in such vast numbers. So, first of all, the Armageddon Wars were a series of three major conflicts fought during M41 on the Imperial hive world of Armageddon. Because the planet's vital, strategic, and economic importance to the rest of the Imperium, it has presented an inviting target to numerous enemies for the same reason has been defended just as fiercely. So, the first war for Armageddon is kind of different to all the other wars, and it kind of stands outside of the kind of main story. But the First War for Armageddon saw the world leaders at the head of, and plus lots and lots of chaos demons, invading and basically trying to butcher and take over the planet and kill the populace. Now, this was actually a crazy war, more for the aftermath of the war than for the war itself, because it took a combined force of kind of all the PDFs, a bunch of Imperial Guards, Space Wolves, and Grey Knights, and those two kind of Space Marine factions, if you can call Grey Knights a Space Marine faction, is the reason it got kind of interesting, because the Grey Knights did en masse deploy. They deployed over 100 Grey Knight Terminators to fight the demon Primarch Angron, who was of course leading the forces for the first war, and they did manage to defeat him, although only 7 Grey Knights walked away from the fight, which is insane. The problem was, at this point in the lore in the 41st millennium, they did not want the populace knowing about demons, and they couldn't bombard and destroy the planet, so they decided to try and destroy and basically kill all of the populace. The Space Wolves stood in and said, absolutely not. We will fiercely defend the populace and try and defend and kind of escort them off the planet. Grey Knights stood in their way, and this actually caused a civil war between the Grey Knights and the Space Wolves, which was a fairly bloody conflict. It actually cost the life of the Grand Master of the Grey Knights in that war. It was an insane, insane story, and they eventually came to terms thanks to Bjorn the Fell-Handed, but yeah, that's a whole other story. So then we begin the second, third, and now the fourth war for Armageddon. These are all fought Imperial forces versus the orcs. The orcs wanted to invade and take Armageddon for themselves. So the first war for Armageddon, of course, still led by war boss Ghazghkull, Mad Urk Thraka, is obviously the big bad. He has rallied together in a gigantic force of orcs and has invaded the system. Basically, the planet was getting the absolute crap kicked out of it up until the point where it got to Hades Hive. And Hades Hive was defended by Commissar Yarrick, and he basically roused the troops and managed to hold Hades Hive firm and stayed in control, defended, fought back the orcs, fought them to basically a stalemate until the Blood Angels managed to make planetfall, defeat the orcs, and push them off the planet. So this is why we have now, going back into the fourth Warhammer again, you can see why Blood Angels are being shown as kind of the important Space Marines in attendance, why Yarrick is so important. There was then a break, and Ghazghkull basically arrived back at Armageddon decades later. So he went away, an orc, was usually a mindless orc, but he had a very kind of cunning mind when it comes to warfare, so actually gave it decades of time for him to build up his forces, his ships, his war machines, orc boys, everything ready for the next war for Armageddon, where he would once again re-invade, try and take and hold Armageddon at all costs. Commissar Yarrick came out of retirement to lead the entire planetary defense of Armageddon, which is quite a big deal, considering that the forces he was in command of was basically all the PDF, all the Imperial Guard, and Space Marines from more than 20 chapters, and they all bowed down and said, Yarrick's in charge. This was, of course, a crazy and bloody war, and there's a particularly famous engagement involving a certain Black Templar chaplain defending a hive with 100 Marines. Go read Hell's Reach as a novel, you won't regret it. It's absolutely incredible. But they did actually manage to fight off and defeat the orcs and push them off the planet. But Ghazghkull was not destroyed, and Yarrick decided to leave the planet at the head of the Black Templars. So they basically gave him great respect and honored him, allowed him to come with them off the planet and basically try and pursue Ghazghkull. Now we have the new war, where we don't really know what's going to happen. We know Ghazghkull has returned once again with a gigantic army, and we have Yarrick, somehow still alive after all these years, is ready to once again defend Armageddon. So the big thing is, why do orcs keep invading this key planet? And if you have read the Beast Arises series, you will actually learn that this world had a previous name, which was Ullanor. This planet is the original homeworld of the orcs. Nobody in history remembers this fact, and that is why the orcs are always drawn to it. They are trying to recapture and retake their homeworld from the Imperium, which is an absolutely crazy fact. How Ullanor came to become Armageddon, how it got teleported halfway across the galaxy, is stuff you will have to read with the Beast Arises series, which is definitely a brilliant series of books. Well worth your time, and it does indeed fill in all those gaps. So yeah, I don't know whether that information will come to light in this new fourth kind of war for Armageddon. I hope they don't just kind of breeze past Yarrick being this old and still being alive. I would like them to try and explain it a little bit. It's obviously going to be a crazy war zone. They've shown some of the characters which are returning for it, and I really do hope they focus on it quite a lot for this edition. Obviously 40k can sometimes be so broad it stretches across an entire kind of galaxy worth of fighting and thousands of war zones that it can feel a little bit distilled. I would like them to focus a little bit more on these key locations, i.e. Armageddon, get proper campaign books, maybe a big campaign map, and they go through the whole thing as to how you fight and take and hold Armageddon from the invading orcs. To me, that would be an incredible way to go, and I would very much and thoroughly enjoy fighting through that in the next couple of months. So there's everything I personally know, where's the synopsis of everything I know about the Armageddon system. Did you know all this information previously? If you did, let me know in the comments. If there's any key pieces of information that you think need to be mentioned about the wars for Armageddon, and maybe going into the fourth Armageddon, that you think people should know, please do help me out and put them in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, you want to see more like it, make sure that you give this video a like, make sure that you are of course subscribed, and of course if you want to help the channel grow even further and faster, help keep the lights on and the cameras rolling, please do think about joining me over on Patreon. It's a whole host of different reasons to do that. i.e. getting involved with a private Discord server. You get extra videos every single week. We do podcasts over there. We do painting competitions and showcases and all sorts of other things. And also we do a giveaway every single month. So one lucky person will win a very nice beginning to a World Eaters army this month, which will be shipped anywhere in the world at my expense. And all you need to do to enter is, of course, be signed up to the Patreon at any tier. Okay, with that out of the way, we are looking at the last few details of this Blood Angel. You guys know, if you've watched all my videos before and that I've painted Blood Angels before, obviously I'm pushing this one up a lot further and doing all my edge highlights. And I really want to give this Blood Angel the kind of respect that it does deserve, considering Blood Angels are such a focal chapter. Even though they're first founding chapters can be focal and not focal, like we don't barely ever hear or see from things like the White Scars or the Raven Guard. But the Blood Angels are always such a pivotal force. In fact, they play quite a cool role in that Beast of Rise series itself. So if you're ever curious and want to check them out, please do. Like I said, try and get your hands on those books. They're pretty good. Do you like how this Blood Angel has turned out? I have, of course, stolen much inspiration from a good friend of mine who is painting a beautiful Blood Angels Legion himself. And I basically stole his scheme. So a big thank you to him. I'm not going to name names in case he doesn't want it, but he knows who he is if he bothers to watch the video. And yeah, I'm really pleased with this final result. I think this is the best Blood Angel, our son of Sanguinius, that I have ever painted. Do you agree? Not agree? What do you think? Anyway, thank you guys so much for sticking around to the end of this video. I really do hope you enjoyed it, learned a little something, and hopefully you can teach me a little something in the comments below. Thank you as always, and I will see you in the next video.